Hi, welcome back to Rebel Health. I am Dr. Ellen Vora, a holistic psychiatrist based in New York City, right now coming to you from an epically beautiful lake in New Zealand. I'm somewhere outside of a town called Tanau, though I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. And today I want to cover the topic of antibiotics and what do you do around that whole issue. Because I recently put out a video saying I have a hunch that there might be a connection between the decimated gut flora in our country and obesity. And I think a big factor in why we have such problems with our guts is because we all take too many antibiotics, and our food has antibiotics pumped into it, and the residue of it is in our tap water. So antibiotics everywhere. It's impacting our gut flora. It might be making us fat and suffering from chronic illness and all these other issues. So let's say you actually have a cold or a flu or a sinus infection, and you think, oh, I sure would like to take antibiotics and feel better. So then what do you actually do? And I think there are a few different ways to think about this. There are so many situations in which we've been habituated to think antibiotics are the treatment, when in fact they really aren't. There are about 150 million antibiotic prescriptions in the US every year, and even very conventional doctors will acknowledge that about 30% of those are probably wrong, and that's not actually the correct treatment for the illness. And so if you talk to somebody like me, I think the number is probably even higher than that. So there certainly is a time and a place for antibiotics, and I think if I were at death's door and it was a bacterial infection, I would want to take antibiotics, and thank goodness for Western medicine sometimes, but so much of the time it's overkill and it causes more problems both in the short and long term than it ever solves. And then of course if you have a viral infection, something like a flu, antibiotics do nothing except give you this sense of that they're helping, and then your illness just improves on its own and you think, wow, the antibiotics really worked. So there's two questions. There's sort of what do you do if you want to avoid taking antibiotics, and then what do you do if you have to take antibiotics and you want to heal your gut? So let's first address the first one. If you want to try to avoid the need to take antibiotics, I recommend really giving your body everything to support your immune system and really increasing the gut flora diversity. So you want to take probiotic, you want to eat a lot of fermented foods. That's things like sauerkraut and kimchi and apple cider vinegar and beet kvass. And then give your body the prebiotics, that's things like starchy tubers like sweet potatoes or plantains or white potatoes or taro and yucca. And then support your immunity. Vitamin A is really helpful, so you want to get that in the form of something like cod liver oil. And then you also want to get all of the B vitamins. It's best to get that from food like egg yolks and chicken liver pate. But really the number one best thing you can do is chicken soup. Make it yourself or get it from a really good quality butcher that's using healthy, free-range, legit chickens, not just all the words at Whole Foods on the package, but actually going to a farm or a farmer at a farmer's market where they're making healthy chickens. And that's kind of the idea with supporting your immunity. Really the number one thing though is rest. And for a lot of us that actually is harder than anything. It means probably staying home from work and not half working from home, but actually just resting, giving your brain a rest, giving your body a rest, being in a dark and unstimulating environment and just being in bed under the covers and resting. So that's the idea of how do you avoid antibiotics when it's a little bit like 50-50 whether or not you need to take it. Then there's a scenario of you had to take it. Say you had a surgery or you really did have a serious bacterial infection, you took antibiotics and here you are and you want to heal your gut. So there's a lot you can do for that. Taking a probiotic is kind of a given, but I think the real 1-2 punch of rebuilding your gut flora, it's actually in the form of fermented foods and starchy tubers. So same things that apply from before. Sauerkraut, kimchi, beet kvass, apple cider vinegar, sweet potatoes, plantains, so on and so forth. And then there are other things you can do to help heal your gut. That would be things like collagen and bone broth and ghee. And consuming all of those are really nice and nourishing to your tender gut after some antibiotics. And a little known supplement called Saccharomyces boulardii, it often goes under S. boulardii or Sac boulardii. That's something you can help take for if you have a little bit of a yeast overgrowth after an antibiotic prescription, which is pretty common. So these are just some ways to help you navigate this process. There's always a judgment call with antibiotics, but I just want to invite you to be a little skeptical about, don't just take at face value everything that conventional medicine industrial complex is handing over to you. And if you do have to take them, protect your gut afterward. And if you can possibly avoid the need to take them, I hope you're able to do that. So hope that's helpful. We'll see you next time on Rebel Health.